So Blitz makes content regarding news updates, and he is breaking down more Nomura text. He's opening the pages, he's looking through the Twitter. There's more content that he talked about, but yeah, let's get into the video. I'm really excited. I'm ready to hear from Blitz.
So naturally, we just have to talk about this. The actual official cover art of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has been a hot topic since it was revealed just a few weeks ago, actually, approaching almost a month in about 3 days. Crazy how time has been flying, actually. I can't even imagine a month has already passed us. Rather than us having to speculate and decipher exactly what this cover art should mean, Square Enix themselves actually got Nomura to talk about it and just flat out explain it for us. And it's pretty damn good because it confirms a lot of things that a lot of people have been saying over the past few years, and it's just getting spicier, guys. This is just the second game in a 3-part series. For more Final Fantasy coverage, be sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell, percent even Twitter player. Now, that being said, let's get into this video. This actually comes from the final.
So you guys see that, right? Everyone sees. Hold on. Let me just try to figure out this camera situation. I don't know why. You guys, I'm not. It doesn't look like I'm looking at the video, and I'm sorry. I'm going to fix this right now. Okay, cool. This should fix it. Hard to say, but okay, cool. So as you see, there is Sephiroth, Cloud, and Zack. I have it on my background, as it were. It's on my background. Let me show you. Boom. See? I hope you can see that, because I don't know. But yeah, this game is pretty cool. This game is pretty big, because I'm really excited about what Final Fantasy Rebirth has in store. I can't play yet because I do not have a PlayStation 5. It's accessible at my local Costco, but I don't have it yet. I don't have the money for it. But as you guys can see, there's a beautiful situation going on with these pictures, each of them representing a different timeline, if you will, to where in this game we are interacting with Cloud and he's experiencing his own timeline. We're experiencing the meddlings of Sephiroth, of which he's a looming antagonist. He's been looming since Rebirth, to where he is messing around with Cloud, as you saw, and he is speaking of certain things, and he speaks in a way where he has done this before, along with Aerith. Him and Aerith has done this certain dance before, and he is very knowledgeable to the point where Cloud is just his puppet right now. And we saw at the end of Rebirth and during the past videos of us covering Final Fantasy VII, we know Zack is moving around in this environment because at the end of Final Fantasy VII, he is just roaming. He was dragging the body of Cloud. He survived the ambush by Shinra. And who can say? Who can say that at this current moment the ambush was successfully survived because of the fall of Shinra at the time? Or it could have been like the Spectres of Fate that have intervened, or because of the death of the Spectres of Fate, Zack survived. Because who knows? Because allegedly, at the end of Final Fantasy Rebirth, the end of Remake, you guys saw us fight the Spectre of Fates. We defeated him and Sephiroth during that confrontation. However, we don't know the ramifications yet. We're going to go into Rebirth without knowing the ramifications of the conflict created and fought by us. We fought the Spectres of Fate, and let me just see if I can't just hold on. Of Fate, Spectre of Fate, Final Fantasy VII Remake. Let's see if because like we were fighting these ghastly folks. We fought this guy, Whisperbringer, not this guy. There was a big figure. But that's what we fought with we fought his elk. We fought that guy. And it's really confusing. Just because we're in a situation where we fought that guy, we don't know the ramifications of fighting him, and the whole purpose of us like going on this journey is to fight Sephiroth. But again, I don't know what the Spectre of Fate had to have done. By him dying, did that alter the timeline where Zack survived the fight? And that's a big question. So, as I said, this picture shows three of them, each three different protagonists or antagonists. We see the looming figure that is Sephiroth, followed by Cloud and Zack. And we theorize that Reunion might be a situation where we climb the summit and Reunion's going to be possibly the mending and the welding of Zack's world and Cloud's world. And the fight for dominance as to which timeline is going to be the canonical timeline, right? But he'll talk. He has more to say.
Final Fantasy VII official Twitter page. We see the cover art of the game, and it's so fantastic. I love this thing. I mean, you get the water on fire on the ground, the reflection of.
They do a really good job with this photo, just because, again, like the details, the distinct details between the reflection between Cloud, Zack, and Sephiroth. The water is reflective. Meteor is most likely going to be the cliffhanger that Rebirth is going to leave us on, and up until we're going to go from the beginning of Rebirth up into the Forbidden City, and we don't know. There's no confirmed information on whether or not it's going to be. We're going to be ending with Sephiroth summoning Meteor, and then the game cuts, and you'll get no audio for the credits. It's going to be a lot of situations going on where this will be. That last fight will probably be in a situation where we see Cloud see Zack for the first time since Cloud's remembrance of him dying. But yeah.
Sephiroth, Zack, and Cloud inside the water as well, and not to mention the sky between Meteor, Blood. Let's just talk about what exactly they're discussing right here. This actually was designed by Nomura. His artwork represents the three worlds that form the axis of the story in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
The axis of the story.
The three worlds, guys. Three.
It's so. I say timeline, but.
Worlds. At first, we thought it was, with a remake, it would just be one single world.
Yeah, because, like, if everyone remembers correctly, like, the whole premise of us going into remake years ago was the idea of this is going to be a new telling on a new engine and a new way to play Final Fantasy VII. Up until a point where things changed the moment we experience Cloud's PTSD attack, or like flashbacks of Sephiroth just being a menace to him. And then we started showing signs of things being different the moment that Aerith is pushed out of her alley to run into Cloud, and we see her being insistent that she sells him the flower to Cloud, because in the holy timeline, in the canonical primary timeline from 1997, we see him buy the flower, go to town, then give it to either Tifa or Marlene. And if you know correctly, and if you know this, then you know that that's part of the original timeline. But the fact that she was forced out is a little weird of that alley. It's really weird. But who can say, Nomura has opened the textbook.
One timeline, obviously, right? Which would be the one that Sephiroth is from. Then
I can definitely see that, like, because Aerith and Sephiroth are interacting with the characters in a different way, as if they've lived this life before, or as if they are a part of a cycle maintained by the Spectres of Fate.
Final Fantasy VII Remake. We technically have the one that Cloud is currently in that we're playing in, a second one that Sephiroth has created, essentially, by trying to shape and change the way that things play out, and the Whispers try to prevent that and whatnot.
And, like, what am I... No, because, like, I would disagree with this, too, just because, from my experience, unless it's explicitly said, in my experience, the Spectres were always around to make sure the timelines is linear, that makes sense. They interfered when Sephiroth went off the page and killed Barrett. They came and then they revived Barrett because he wasn't supposed to die. They interfered by spooking Aerith out of the alleyway so that she can sell the flower. And then when you play 7, you don't see a PTSD like a Cloud has, but we see in the first hour or so, or alleged first hour, that he is freaking out. Cloud is freaking out, and he sees Sephiroth looming over him. It's not the same as the main timeline, but the Spectre's fair to make sure the timeline makes sense.
And then by the end of the game, I don't know if Sephiroth is aware of this, if he even knows he created technically another universe, which we see Zack represented by the terrier stamp.
I would argue that Sephiroth doesn't care. I would argue that at the time of at the end of the conflict with Party, Spectre, Fate, and Sephiroth doesn't care. He doesn't care that he is likely unaware, because so are we. Because he is aware of him messing around with Cloud, and he is aware that he is fighting Cloud at this moment. But he did not anticipate us defeating the large Spectre of Fate, Spectre of Destiny. So when that happened, he disappears. At this point, we don't know that Sephiroth, that Zack is alive, because at the ending, as you see, Zack is breathing heavily from defeating the Shinra ambush, and the Spectres are just dissipating, and it's my firm belief that the reason why we're in this kind of situation where he is just being alive, he's breathing heavy, is because at that moment that we defeated the Spectre of Destiny, the Spectres of Fate that was blocking Zack from going back to Midgard, that was maintaining the holy timeline, dissipates too. That's what can possibly happen. But again, I doubt Sephiroth knows or cares that Zack's timeline is being active. Of the what if Zack survived the fight.
Because remember, in the original FF7, there was no stamp. We don't know anything about a stamp. They never really referred to it in any way. But we know in the remake timeline, at least, there is a...
Have you ever played
There's
a
a stamp
game that auto-updates the tech tree as long as you keep fighting? You can learn to use...
Beagle stamp, which is really prevalent throughout the entire game.
Beagle stamps?
And now with Zack's...
Yeah, because like, as you're gonna... Hold on, wait, what? What do you say? Sorry.
In any way. But we know in the remake timeline, at least, there is a Beagle stamp, which...
What's the point of the Beagle?
But we know in the was no stamp. We don't know any terrier stamp, because remember, in the original...
Oh, right. If I remember correctly, the stamps are the stamps, they're different stamps.
FF7, there was no stamp. We don't know anything about a stamp. They never really referred to it in any way. But we know in the remake timeline, at least, there is a Beagle stamp, which is really prevalent throughout the entire game. And now with Zack's timeline, we have the terrier stamp, which has been showcased at the end of his trailer, and we haven't seen anything of it since. And we...
Okay. That makes sense. Now that makes sense. So where the dog's important, the two dogs are distinguishing different timelines. That makes a lot of sense. Where we see a beagle, and now we see a terrier. But I hope he includes the scene where the Spectres of Fate are dissipating, and then the proverbial dome protecting Midgard from Zack has disappeared.
We've seen in the recent gameplay footage and recent trailers showing where Cloud is marching down Juna, and we can see Beagle stamps. So Cloud is still
Beagle?
inside of his universe right there.
So
and it
yeah,
actually is shown as well.
That makes sense, because like as of this moment, it's only all we get. I feel like all we're ever gonna get are just flashes into Zack's timeline, but we won't know that we are. If I feel this game correctly, it's gonna be a seamless interaction and jump between Zack and Cloud. It's either gonna be seamless, or we're gonna get instances where we play as Zack. But I want us to have Zack gameplay, and I doubt it, because it'll throw off the narrative that we have, where we've been playing Cloud this entire time with the Beagle this entire time. For us to randomly swap into Zack may not make sense, but it will make sense if we want to know what's been happening while Cloud has been gone. I can definitely see that.
Well, on the way to Junon on a poster, another Beagle stamp. So that is the 3 different worlds that we will be experiencing, or that will be directly referencing and creating what we are playing in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Some crazy stuff. Sephiroth is in the center as he represents the instigator of the events of the past.
Yeah, definitely makes sense because, like, again, he is appearing with the Spectre of Destiny. I had a feeling that Sephiroth wants to make a timeline where he is coming out on top. And since he didn't do that during his first playthrough of the Holy Timeline, he's coming back and he's messing with Cloud in order to make his ambition come true.
Very true. He is definitely an instigator and a gaslighter as well, since he is manipulating Cloud to...
Glad and Zack are on the side as they represent the destinies being torn apart by Sephiroth. The image of blood, fire, and red that invokes Sephiroth stains the sky and spreads over the world. The subtle red shade in the logo also inspires the same imagery. Is it though? That itself is a bit of a stretch, but I will say that it's again,
betray or not trust Tifa this time around. Cloud and Zack are on the...
Well, of course we're not going to trust Tifa because Tifa is from the original timeline. It's her experience, because if I remember correctly, we're in a situation where you have everyone but Sephiroth and Aerith are of a different timeline based on their interactions. As far as everybody else knows, Tifa and Cloud are in the original timeline as far as they know. But we're going to go into the conflict between Tifa and Cloud, where neither of them are a good... The only bad storyteller is Cloud, because Cloud is expressing vivid inputs and memories regarding the Niflheim incident. But Tifa never saw him. So she's going to begin to question, how does he know what I went through? Do I remember it correctly? Or is he being senile? Is the conflict that Tifa and Cloud are going to have. I still don't believe that Cloud is supposed to be a romance for Aerith. I do believe that Tifa and Cloud are the romance. So fight me.
The side as they represent their destinies being torn apart by Sephiroth. The image of blood, fire, and red that evokes Sephiroth stains the sky and spreads over the world. The subtle red.
I still don't think, as he reads it after me, I don't feel like, I'll admit, even though Sephiroth didn't intend on this happening, he is still the reason why we have a split timeline between Zack surviving Shinra's ambush and Cloud proper. Sephiroth is the reason why we have a splitting timeline.
Red shade in the logo is also inspired by the same imagery, which we've seen many times. I mean, we've seen this right here, the little subtle, not so subtle red that you can see in the title, and it also is affecting on the meteor, which kind of makes me wonder if by the time we get to the third title, this entire meteor will be red, which would be a nice
Just maybe.
way
That
for
would
them
be
to
pretty
take it,
cool.
in my opinion. And not only this art too, we have, let me see. And not only the cover art with Cloud, Zack, and Sephiroth is being a thing, there's also a second one that you see when you beat the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth play demo that the...
Wait, what? So I saw the bottom image floating around for a while, but again, that's interesting. So you get this if you beat the demo.
Content creators of over the last 2 weeks got to play, which is pretty damn awesome. I mean, it just replaces Cloud with Tifa and also replaces Zack with Aerith, which has huge implications as to what the hell is going to be happening going forward in the story. What's interesting too is that if you look at Cloud's side of things, you can see the Nibelheim Mountains, kind of. Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure that is Nibelheim's mountain areas, right? It's not the Northern Crater. Can't be. And plus, you see some Mako pipes down there, and the starry night sky, which is a huge representation of Cloud and Tifa. We've seen in their backgrounds that it does show that as much. And I mean, we even see that if you scroll down here, Tifa's got literally the same imagery. And then for
which again, that makes sense, but like that does bring in the question, why in the second picture it shows a split timeline? Like, as far as I personally know, Cloud, Sephiroth and Aerith are from the same like gameplay, you know, same timeline. But as to why they represent
Zack and Aerith's side, you know, Aerith is afraid of the clear blue open sky. She's referenced and mentioned that many times, and this is something she also talks to Zack about in Crisis Core as well. So that's a recurring theme. There's absolutely nothing different between the two images besides the fact that characters have been swapped, and you can see the reflection of Tifa like in the water. Same goes for Aerith, which is really dope. A lot of people have been bringing back that theory where they think Sephiroth is going to kill or get rid of Tifa, which I don't know. I don't think he would go that far to do that.
Because again, like they feel that Tifa is going to be killed based on the recent trailer, and that's only because Sephiroth is right. Sephiroth remembers cutting down Tifa at Nibelheim. However, for him to then see Tifa again in that last fight in Remake and in the President Shinra's office, or rather, if you follow me and you've watched me play Ever Crisis, in that cutscene where we see the sword sticking out of President Shinra, Sephiroth is nowhere to be seen. So what's going to be curious is that when Sephiroth meets up with them for the next time, I don't know if it's going to be timeline proper Sephiroth or Sephiroth that's been messing with them in Remake, if that makes sense, because he showed genuine curiosity as to didn't I strike you down before? It's because the original timeline he thought so. However, in this instance with this new game playing, Sephiroth is a looming darkness, and they physically fight Sephiroth, but which version of Sephiroth, or is it a clone that's been hinted on similar to that of Advent Children?
That because, well, I mean, if he wants to win, he would, because doing this would break Cloud, and Cloud would never really repair himself and understand the true stuff of what went down in Nibelheim. I mean, you could argue that Aerith knows about what's happening in the past.
Yeah, because I do argue that, because Aerith knows more than she lets on the entire game. But if he were to kill Tifa, I don't think Cloud would have as much of a reaction as people would want him, Cloud to, because in the original timeline, Cloud and Tifa are just friends. They're just childhood friends, but not lovers. Allegedly, the original game instigates and insists that Cloud's one true love throughout the series was Aerith. So I don't think he will have that much of a reaction. But if you play your karma correctly, it'll change that meaning entirely.
But how far does that extend to? Because she doesn't seem to be aware of entirely everything. But Sephiroth, bro, look at this sky. Like, you know, the lightning cracking in the middle.
It's definitely the whole meteor coming down, but
the
sure.
Blood red, the meteor, which is pretty symbolic, obviously, with the red and the follow-up of the logo image and whatnot. It's a lot of stuff to really take into consideration. And not to mention, I mean, these are all playable characters, right? Every single one of these characters is playable. It has not been confirmed that Zack is playable, but we've seen it.
Yeah, definitely for sure, because if it's not going to tease... It teased recently in trailers of Vincent's arrival. We show that Vincent has appeared for the first time. He jumps out of his coffin. He introduces himself. If he's going to be as unplayable as Red 13 was at the end of Remake, I can very well see Zack being unplayable, but a guest party member in the final chapter, in the final act of Rebirth, and then he'll become a playable character in the third installment. But to what extent, we don't know until Nomura shows us in the new game.
In a lot of footage, Zack has materia in his Buster Sword, whereas we previously saw in other cutscenes where in Remake where Zack wasn't playable, both in-game cutscenes and CGI cutscenes, Zack had no materia in his Buster Sword.
And he's never done materia because that was his whole thing. That was, I believe, his way of respecting Angeal, because he's never needed to do that, because after the events of Angeal and Genesis, I think those slots are still empty towards the end of Ever Crisis, towards the end of Crisis Core.
However, for Cloud, he always has materia in the Buster Sword.
Because he's smart.
And a lot of times, it's very
he's
representative
smart.
of what you have equipped currently to him in the game. We've seen that with Zack in the trailer. He has 2 green materias equipped, and he has
Where
he's carrying Cloud through these
okay.
slums. And
okay, I was wrong. But again, we are experiencing a different timeline, so I wonder that too, because if we look back, hold on, sorry.
He has 2 green materias equipped, and he has
So, I don't know what this means. I think Zack finally learned to use magic, but that doesn't excuse other times where if you play as Zack, he would have learned a way to not slot the materia. But I don't know. That's just semantics.
he's carrying Cloud through these Sector 5 slums. And obviously, we seen footage. We get to play as Sephiroth, which is really cool in the flashback. The flashback, which a lot of people were worried, and I was too, that we weren't going to be able to play as him, and he was just going to be a assist character. But no, he's full on playable with an insane move list and abilities that I just was not expecting. And obviously, Aerith and Tifa are playable as well. So it's going to be very hyped to see what exactly Zack's missions and what exactly his story is going to pertain to, what exactly is going to be him dealing with it. We do know that he drops off Cloud in the slums on his first arrival there, leaves to do something, comes back to get Cloud. How far does the Zack playthrough chapters extend? I don't know. Is it one single chapter? Is it a separate thing? It's not a DLC. They've already confirmed there's no DLC plans for Rebirth. I was kind of hope that it's not the case, and
I do hope that there is a case where you don't have DLC, because when it comes to telling the story of Rebirth, we already have on the paper that Deep Ground was already introduced in the last game. We already know that because as of this moment, when the climax occurs in Rebirth, every player will be on the table, unless there isn't, because we have the presence of Deep Ground being present, and we have all the main characters but Sid present. We have Zack. I feel like what he's going to be doing is catch up, because he's going to be catching up to, because he came into the city, you're like, whoa, the plate's fallen. Whoa, everyone's distraught. How did this happen? And then if he catches wind of Sephiroth, he's going to chase, the game's going to be him chasing down Sephiroth, while the body of his Cloud is ambiguous, whether or not that body will react in a certain way, like a remnant would, or whether his body will be just a vessel for Cloud or for Sephiroth. I don't know. But I feel like Zack's storyline is going to be him catching up to everybody else, because he's last of the party. As of this moment, he's watching the aftermath of Plate 7 dropping, and he has no idea what's going on. He hands off slumped Cloud to the girl, and we don't know what that's going to mean yet.
We actually do get DLC for like Vincent, but as of right now, that's essentially what we've been hearing about it, right? But it's just really insane to see that they've actually straight up said, like, there's 3 worlds that form the axis of the story of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and we can honestly decipher exactly what those are based off of the information we know currently. The Zack New Terrier timeline, the remake Beagle timeline, and the original timeline, which Sephiroth either comes from or has already meddled with and is just way, way deeper than we could have ever anticipated. He is for sure the instigator and pulling all kinds of strings, from gaslighting people to wanting to not trust their longtime friends and trying to actively turn others against them. So,
But again, but Bliss, that makes sense though, because for everyone to be turning on to each other, that's going to be the whole point. A lot of it's just going to be Tifa and Cloud, because Cloud is oblivious to everything. What he's experiencing is his experience because that's how he remembers it. But there's a moment of his dissociative amnesia where he thinks his life directly mirrored Zack, because that was his takeaway of Zack's last message, was being his living legacy. And maybe that may include absorbing memories and placing himself in places that Zack was, to where he was Soldier. Cloud was never in Soldier. He was First Class. He was never in Soldier. He was in Nibelheim, but he was too embarrassed to take off his helmet to show and talk to Tifa because he failed. He feels like he failed on his goal prior to going to Nibelheim, so he kept on his helmet the entire time. He played oblivious. He played silent because he was too embarrassed to not have Tifa know that, hey, he was successful, because he promised the next time he'll be in Nibelheim is him as a successful soldier. Not the case. But Tifa clearly, I don't think, cares. But for Tifa to regurgitate everything accurately, and Cloud doing it too as a collaborator, doesn't make sense for Tifa, because in her trauma, she was by herself. She wasn't aware of where Cloud was, even though Cloud was there. She was alone. She tried to attack Sephiroth. Sephiroth cut her and was presumed dead. The Elder comes to save Aerith in the nick of time, and to save Tifa in the nick of time, and Tifa is going to be living a life where the Nibelheim incident concluded. She has no knowledge of Cloud, but she's not letting life keep her behind, so she moves out and then meets Cloud at the Sector 7 station, because that's where he was last. He makes it there, as told by the character stories and Ever Crisis. Somehow Cloud, after the events of Crisis Core, drags himself to Sector 7, Sector 6 slums, and on one of Tifa's runs, she finds him, and he is closed off. He is distant because he doesn't know how to properly react to Tifa. But he does say the lie that he was a soldier first class, because that's what Zack always said. And when Cloud talked to Aerith never mentioned the name of Zack, or his brain goes into a fritz whenever he blanks out the word Zack, I think, in his head, because in his trauma, he is representing himself as Zack's living legacy. So even though nobody is being a truthful storyteller, nobody's helping each other out, because Aerith never reveals Zack's name, and Cloud never admits he was a failed cadet and never became soldier. But he does take on the persona of his dead friend, which Aerith, I don't think, is aware. I don't think she still is aware. But who knows? Maybe she learns at some point. But I don't think Aerith is aware of Zack's death.
Oh, Sephiroth has a lot of work cut out for him, and I'm really excited to see exactly where they take this. But I want to hear from you guys in the comments below. What do you think? How would you describe the cover image of this game, and what story directions do you think they will be taking going forward? So when we finally get to play Rebirth, we're going to be seeing some pretty awesome stuff, I think, this weekend. They have New York Comic Con, which is going to be showcasing the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth event. That they have a panel there with all the voice actors, including Matt Mercer, who's not a voice actor, or at least not confirmed yet.
And this is an old video, so it's been confirmed that Matt Mercer is going to be Vincent Valentine, so that's pretty exciting. But yeah, he's just doing outros, I feel. So that is the video. That is the video of Blitz discussing Nomura's confirmation regarding the key art and everything. And I think Maximilian made a video about that too. So that's really fun. I like the idea that I got the opportunity to dance between Maximilian and Blitz, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm loving the theory crafting that comes from this franchise. But any closing statements? I have tons. I feel like once this game drops, everybody will get even more confused because on top of Aerith not knowing, not revealing what she actually knows, if she still thinks that Zack is alive, she thinks possibly more now, because at the end of the credits for Final Fantasy VII Remake, she has a realization. She never audibly expresses her realization regarding what has happened, and what has passed. But who's to say? And then we're gonna have that confrontation between Tifa and Cloud, because they're gonna have a situation to where who's telling the truth? The guy who has instances of PTSD attacks is also being very truthful to the events of Nibelheim, and me, who I got stabbed, I got cut by Sephiroth. I was in a near-death experience, and that created some trauma, making me have problems remembering or me accepting the memories. So who's to say? And all the while, we don't know information regarding Cid. We know they run into Vincent, but to what extent, I don't know. He might pop off and pop back in for the last fight, but again, we don't know because we have an inkling that the final confrontation will be very wild. Who's to say? The countdown is upon us. We will be going to the Forbidden City when the game comes out in February. So that's it. That's the video. Thank you so much, Blitz. Your video will be left in the comments, left in the description, if you don't want my face inside of it. But hey, thank you for watching. Thank you, Blitz, and I'll see you next time.